Highest bidder wins. Done. 13 minutes, mate.
All right, okay.
Yeah, first of all, thanks a lot to Simon and Chris for making this the hardest speech of all time with 2 amazing speeches. That's brilliant. But yeah, also just wanted to touch on something quickly. You were talking about Lee mistaking the girls and sort of taking the mick out of Lee a bit. And he's not the only one to have done it, I think, Chris. The first time I stayed in Chris's spare room after meeting Gabs, it doesn't go the way you think it does. There were some photos around of Lisa and Alex's wedding, and I came down the next day, and me and Chris went for a pint late that afternoon, and it just kind of tentatively was like, oh, so I didn't know Gabs was married before, mate. That's cool. So that was how I found out she had a twin. And I'm also not the only person to mistake the girls. The first time, I think it was the first time, Chris met the family, or one of the first times, let's say. As I understand it, this might be slightly wrong, but as he was leaving the house, sort of saying his goodbyes, Gabs walked out with him, or walked out as he was walking out, and was just like, bye then, went to kiss him. He wasn't entirely sure which one it was. So he went with a kiss on the cheek to play it safe. Always play it safe, fair play.
Play it safe.
Yeah. She's the one in the wedding dress, mate, today, at least, so that's easy. Yes, so anyway, I'm Mark, this is Andy, for those of you who don't know us. Now, obviously, when you're asked to be best man, there is sort of a little worry, there's a few things to worry about. Obviously, the speech is one. Little things, you obviously have a little few jobs, the stag do. And there's always a little worry that, the groom might be sort of cooler than you, a bit funnier than you, a bit better looking than you, and you're like, oh, he might stand us up in photos, he might make us look bad. Thankfully, Sheeny is the only man I know, I don't know how many of you know this story, who's been told twice in the space of 2 weeks by 2 separate, complete strangers that he's got a face that you want to punch. So I think me and Andy will be all right. Which is quite funny as well, because Sheeny's also the only person I know who genuinely spends longer getting ready than most girls I know. With all the sort of moisturiser, the eye roll, the eyebrow stuff, the eye mask, the cucumbers, the hair gel, of course. Yeah, so I kind of just imagine how punchable they think his face was if they knew all that backstory as well.
Over to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, before I start abusing Sheeny, I just want to say a couple of words about 2 very special people who sadly can't be here today. Lindsay Sheen, Chris's mum, was like a second mother to me. I absolutely adored her. She was the most caring and beautiful person in the world. She was an amazing friend to our family. I love her very deeply, and I miss our chats as she gave me such words for guidance in life. I'm sure if you ever met her, she may have quoted these words when I was in her company. Do you know, I nearly delivered him. The second legend is David Foster's I Sheen. If you ever met Sheeny, you will know what character he is like father, like son, some say. He was always propped up at the bar, having banter with the barmaids. I've experienced some fantastic and great memories with Sheeny at Chelsea and Stella Artois. I hope one day he will be back at the bridge, belting out a few Kefries and celeries. So please raise a glass to 2 fantastic and lovely people who have made young Sheeny who he is today. To Lindsay and Dave.
Lindsay and Dave. Pass it, mate.
You've got this.
Yeah.
Winners.
Come on. Just realised I got microphones on.
One more special mention. Chris Sheen, for actually turning up on time. For once.
The what?
Whenever Chris says a time, I always know he's going to be about 15 minutes late. Then the time he actually says, his timekeeping is terrible. But then he always blames it on someone else. Hoobla the cat, mainly. Christopher David John Sheeny. I've known Sheeny since he entered into this world, so that's a bloody long time for my sins. We've had many ups and also had some downs, but we've remained best of friends throughout. How, I don't know. It's probably Chelsea which has kept us together. I have hundreds of stories about Shinny, but most of them would have to be heard after the watershed, if you get my drift. So I also have to keep it clean, as my mother is in the building. But if you want to hear some other classics, please grab me in the bar to blow the froth off one, and I can tell you some corkers. One of the earliest memories of the both of us was at my 8th birthday party down at Charrington Bowl. A party of us went down there for a quiet game of bowls, with all the usual heavy bowling balls and ridiculous-looking clown shoes. After a couple of games of bowling, where the competitive Sheeny unfortunately finished last in both games, and then made his excuses on a sore wrist, it was time to head home. So we got back to the house, and my dad looks down and goes, "Chris, what are you doing in those?" They're the bowling shoes. To which Chris replied, "They're really comfortable." and I thought I'd got a new pair of shoes. When I exchanged my old shoes in, fair to say, Sheeny's taste in shoes and clothes has never really improved to this day. His taste in food isn't much better either. Sheeny and I have a real passion for fine food and high-class dining. We have experienced some of the finest Turkish cuisine there is to offer. This normally consists of the best slow-cooked lamb in the country. In Fine Lee and Sheen style, we're always on first names with the local kebab shop where we have lived. Unfortunately, Sheeny is sometimes unable to speak when we enter these establishments.
Sometimes.
But he has always made sure they know his order. Usually Chris does the simple nod, then a point at his favourite thing, tomato ketchup, and waves his hands to say more, more, more. I don't think Chris has actually ever seen his slow-cooked lamb before, as it's completely covered in red sauce. That's it.
I know Chris from school days. I met him about sort of 15 years old, I think. But the ketchup thing, when we were sort of planning the speech, Andy pointed out, and I thought it did make me laugh a lot, because I remember Lynn's used to, Chris's mum, those who don't know, used to carry around a bottle of ketchup in her purse for emergencies for Sheeny. That is genuinely a true story. Yeah, I took it on holiday. Brilliant. None of that foreign muck. Got to be Heinz. I was about to say not to just keep hammering him, but that's sort of what we're here for. Talking of sort of bad taste, Sheeny also has particularly poor taste in films and TV shows. In fact, thank God he met Gabs, because they're actually watching normal stuff now and some decent things. But anyone who's been around Chris's house and sort of sat down and let him choose has probably subjected to Love Actually a few times. Literally his favourite film. Unbelievable. Or 1988 crime caper Buster, is it called? Yeah, that was... Carl and Chip would have been subjected to that a few times at uni, I think. The late night film. When he told me he was going to propose to Gabs. I don't know if Gabs knows this. Told me a couple of days before, and he told me he was going to propose by a film he made. And I feared the worst, to be honest, mate, but things worked out well. So I've known Sheeny since he was sort of a fresh-faced, big-eared idiot, as I've got written down here. And I'd love to stand here and say we got into our fair share of, sort of scrapes and caused a bit of chaos. I could stand here and tell you how he cried and got kicked out of our mate's 18th birthday for pouring a pint over his head. Or how he passed out and split his head the night before he was going on holiday. Or even how he got rejected by the same girl twice in 10 minutes over phone. But that would just be mean. The truth is, we spent a crazy amount, and he's already touched it with him and Carl's recent life. We spent a crazy amount of time growing up playing the computer. Sitting around my house playing the computer while those of us around us matured and had sort of real lives and met girls and did all that sort of stuff. I don't know many other 16-year-olds who would turn down a house party invite on New Year's Eve to our mate who had an awesome house, used to have epic house parties. There was a house party about 150, 200 people, loads of girls going, all our mates going. We turned it down, stayed in, played FIFA until about, Pro Evo, from about 8 p.m. to about 8 a.m. Happy New Year. Used to film ourselves making comedy sketches, singing along to songs. Yeah, I was kind of, when I was jotting this down, I did just think, thank God YouTube wasn't around when we were growing up. We would never have met girls, to be honest. Yeah, all this was before my dad banned Sheeny from my house after a particularly bad AS level or A level, I can't remember what it was. Results, my dad took the sensible step of not blaming me, blaming Chris. So that's where I get it from. But yeah, we did have a good time. Eventually we did discover alcohol and going out and girls, which was nice. And we discovered our shared tendency to binge drink rather than have the odd tipple. Many's a night we had a few too many and embarrassed ourselves, and the lack of speaking in kebab shops. And I think he's the only man who's got a slightly better memory than me when we're drunk. Yeah. Many's a sort of morning after we'd be like, do you remember that? No, not really. Did we go? No. What was that? Don't know, mate. No idea. Good fun though, wasn't it? Yeah, convincing girls we met in Sutton that we owned a racehorse by using, we had an owner's badge from his dad's horse. Bought a bottle of Carver, tried to charm them, didn't work. And I can't let go without mentioning the bouncers of Flares in Croydon. Not going to go into too much detail this one. We basically didn't get let into Flares, which was a very classy nightclub, as you can imagine. To not get let in is quite an achievement to start with. So once we didn't get let in this night, all our friends were going, and we were like, oh, this is a bit annoying. I don't think we even had that thought process, actually. We were so drunk. So we proceeded to stand in front of the bouncers, just out of reach, cleverly, and sing and chant made-up football songs at them for about 2 hours, probably, while all our friends in the queue sort of went in one at a time and like, you boys are a disgrace. Yeah, and to this day, you know, a lot of our friendship is built on the going for the odd drink and it escalating, and you know, we share a tendency to go big drinking, go big or go home and play FIFA, as I like to say, and I like to think I played my part in shaping all that. Over.
For many years, Sheeny and I have attended the tennis at Wimbledon, as we are massive tennis fans. Over many years, there's always been a different story to tell. So Sheeny being Sheeny has always led me astray. He comes up with ridiculous ideas. One year, not with content with sitting in the grandstand, he decided that we need to get into the main pavilion, where the players and VIPs are. He then came up with a plan and said just to follow him. I thought, Jesus, what have I been letting myself in for here? We're going to get chucked out. It was a nightmare. So just to set the scene, it was two 20-year-olds half drunk. Next thing, when the players were having their changeover break, he had me down at the back of the court where the security was. And in classic Sheen blagging style, he said the following to the security guard. Dave Sheen has been on the phone and we need to get to see John the cameraman, as the focus on the camera is out for the BBC TV footage. So the next thing, to my surprise, the security guard lets us through. So the next thing, we're standing back smacking at centre court with the cameraman. We had to wait there for 2 games, where Sheeny spoke to the cameraman about the focus and taking light readings for his camera. Once I had the next change, we went past the cameraman into the main pavilion stand, despite the security guard on the other side asking for our tickets. Sheeny blagged it again, saying, Dave Sheen has sent us across urgently as we've been looking at the cameras. The next thing, we were in this bar with some tennis greats, wining and dining and touring the inside of Wimbledon. It was an amazing experience, to be fair. After 4 or 5 hours of eating and drinking for free, we then left half cut. But not content with leaving quietly, Sheeny made sure he came out where the players come out of. The next thing, there is about 100 fans all screaming, and you can see Sheeny's eyes light up. I can milk this big time. As he is built like a tennis player, tall, thin and scrawny, he can carry it off. He then, in his wisdom, spent 15 to 20 minutes signing autographs for all the fans. These fans couldn't believe their luck that a famous star was signing shirts, programmes, tennis balls and even body parts. I finally managed to drag him away, but not before he gave a cheesy wink and a wave. My God, he loved it. It's a good thing that his football skills are so bad, as you can only imagine him as a pro footballer. On to Sheeny's greatest passion and commitment in life, other than the lovely Gabby, of course. Chelsea FC. We have been going to Chelsea for well over 20 years, until my recent move to sunny climates, as you can see from my tan. We have shared some fabulous memories and stories, and they all seem to have one thing in common, a lot of drink involved. As Sheeny would say, that's standard. On a sunny Wednesday evening, we went to Portsmouth away a few seasons ago. Come on, you like this one?
You know it.
As normal on away days, a lot of drink was consumed. On this occasion, maybe a little bit too much from young Sheeny, as when he spoke to his dad on the phone, he informed Dave Sheen that we'd lost the match 1-0, and he said he was absolutely gutted with the result. In fact, it was 0-0 and at half-time. Classic Sheen. In Sheeny's words, this is the greatest day ever of my life. It doesn't get better than this, as he sipped on a non-alcoholic beer for a change, but I don't think he actually realised that. We just witnessed Dropper stroking the winning penalty to win the Champions League in Munich. Amazing feeling for us all. And with that note, I would like to finish at the top of my game too. On a serious note, I'm honoured to be Sheeny's best man and part of this special day for Sheeny and Gabby. I couldn't have wished it for a better wife for young Sheeny, and I'm very happy for my best friend. I wish them all the happiness in the world.
Yeah, it's true. It's nice. It's true. Sheeny has found the perfect wife. Someone who puts up with him and is patient enough to put up with him, which is big. Gabby really brings out the best in Chris, and it's great to see the two of them so happy together and a privilege to be part of their lives and of their special day. And thanks very much for asking us both to be best men. And yeah, I think since we've moved to the area, it's been really nice seeing a lot of you again. You know, we had a few years we didn't see much of each other. It's been really nice getting to know Gabs really well. And I think, you know, a few months' time it would be nice to go back to our lives 2 years ago and talk about something other than weddings. I don't remember what it was like, to be honest. Yeah, with that, we'd like to raise one final toast to the happy couple. It's Chris and Gabs.
Well done, mate.
Cheers. Chris. Cheers, mate. That's really good.
I know.
Cheers.
It's always hard to see. I don't know.
He's done really well. That story's brilliant. The football was really funny.
Well done, guys.
Right.